Hello and welcome to the More Than Mostly Comedy podcast with me, Glyn David, and
me, Doggett Ephgrave.
Yes.
Me, as I refer to myself, me, Doggett Ephgrave. It's like if you're a fan of Futurama, me, Bender. That's what he says all the time. If you're not, doesn't matter, because that's the only Futurama reference in this podcast that I'm aware of.
Or any podcast we've done of this series ever.
I think I did refer to it one other time, actually, something to do with something episodic, but yeah.
I'm going to go back and find that.
Yeah, if you could. Could you do it now? Or
yeah.
Okay.
How many are there?
His face said no. Well, thank you for joining us here for another episode of this podcast. And this happens to be the last one we record in 2020 Vision, Chuckle Vision. And it was with the fantastic, we say that every time, but genuinely she is, Lynn Ruth Miller.
She absolutely was brilliant. And I'm really sorry, I have to apologise, because I realised when we were recording Lynn's interview, and also now, I've got a really creaky chair, and I'm now sitting as still as I possibly can. And I'm sorry for anyone who hears creaking throughout the interview or creaking now, because
I'll do the best I can in the edit, Glyn. But actually, could we get a creaky wild track? Could you just do about 5 seconds of pure creaking? Like really fast ones. Here we go.
Oh, typically... It's not doing it now, but it does it when I'm
just try, just in case. I'm sure I'll be able to turn the volume up.
Oh, it's not doing it.
I can hear it. I can hear it here. That'll be the wild track. If I run that all the way through, you won't even notice it.
Brilliant, perfect.
I mean, it'll be fucking irritating, but you won't notice it. But that's the nature of doing it the way we're doing this through Zoom once again. Lynn Ruth Miller is the oldest working stand-up on both sides of the Atlantic. She's 87. And didn't start comedy till like 71, I believe it was, which is just, that's mad. So, for us, we basically need to sit around for another about 31, 32 years. Is that right? Before we start doing comedy.
Almost.
To be like her.
So it's only we're about sort of 9-10 years off of our lives so far. Again, we've got to sit around for. If that makes sense.
Almost, yeah. Before we even start.
Yeah.
Because like 30...
Which gives me a lot of hope for our futures.
We might be like fantastic marine biologists. We just don't know yet. So at some point, we'll be somewhere and go, I would like to be, I don't know, some sort of chicken shed builder. I don't know what that is. Who knows? I'm going to be a great escalator designer. I don't know.
Is that a chicken shed builder?
I just went with what came out.
A lot of wire mesh. A lot of playing with wire mesh.
But I might be fucking excellent at it. I might be just the best builder of sheds for chickens. I just don't know yet.
It's really specific.
But you'd like it if I did, wouldn't you? Maybe this is the moment. Yeah. Maybe that was the moment when I realised.
Can you build one? And I'll get some chickens?
Yeah, you get some chickens. I'll build the shed. Yeah. We'll have a lovely time.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it's crazy, really, And also her story. She's the sort of person where she'll say something that in any other situation you'd be like, what? We need to explore that. But because there's so much and because you're doing it in a short period of time, moments like that where you'll be listening and go, what? But we don't have time to ask the question, but we'll do it next time. But because she's done so much.
There'll have to be a part 2 potentially, because I think there were so many things to cover in this interview. But anyway, listen and enjoy it.
That's an order.
I'm just telling you, you must.
Yeah, you will enjoy it. Even if you don't enjoy it, you enjoyed it. But yeah, listen to Lynn Ruth Miller right now.
So we're joined now by Lynn Ruth Miller. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? You okay?
I'm fine. I'm alive. NHS is telling me that I have moments before I won't make it. I get all these letters. You are vulnerable, as I know.
Oh, yes.
You don't need the reminder, do you, constantly? No. Out of interest, have you received contact yet about having the vaccine?
Wednesday.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, wow.
That's a quick turnaround. That's not too bad, because at time of recording, it was only like a few days ago they actually started, wasn't it?
I got a letter from my practice, and I called the number.
Yeah.
I'm getting the first. I guess you have to have 2 of them.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. We probably will all drop dead from the shot, but it's doing it for so that everyone will know that we think it's safe. I understand the Queen is going to get a shot.
Yeah. I think it is a conspiracy to get rid of the older generation. I believe it's just we're going to do that.
I know, but what that for years. Yeah.
But I will now be coming to you when you've had it to ask you how you're feeling every day, just to get a kind of heads up before we get.
Are you sure you feel all right?
Because you're the first person I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I've already had it once. I had it in March. Very, very mild. I had it in March. It's an interesting thing because especially at this holiday season. It makes me very, very sad because I think that the thing that most people are most afraid of, everyone says they're most afraid of public speaking. But no, I think most people are afraid of each other. They're afraid of what people think. They're afraid of each other. And we've exacerbated this with all the publicity and all the doomsaying with the virus. What I think is, I'm not sure how much we have to do, but I'm very interested. I hope I live long enough to read what they say about us in history 5 years hence.
Well,
Remember, I lived through the Asian flu, scarlet fever. I remember scarlet fever, polio.
Yeah.
We never shut the country down. And my concern, we weren't supposed to be talking about this. We were supposed to be talking about comedy. My concern is child abuse and the domestic abuse.
Yes, that's one of the big worries, isn't it? Because obviously so many people are stuck with abusive people, that they can't leave.
It isn't just that. The children are getting underfoot and they can't stand it, and and that can harm a child for life.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, at least the fact that there is a vaccine now, although I know it's going to be a slow process, will gradually bring to the point where things will go more to normality, and those people won't be in that position. Because obviously that's a terrible place for anyone to be, and the more we can do to prevent that, the better. You're saying about the things that you lived through. My wife pointed out you were born the year that Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. So
yes. Right.
Oh, wow.
I was born the same year that Hitler came into power.
Yeah. Is there a correlation in your lives and your...
Hitler also came into power that year.
Who was that? Sorry, I missed that.
It made Hitler look like Shirley Temple. My mother was a mighty woman.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was reading about with your first book, with a semi-autobiographical novel, I believe it was. Is it Starving Hearts?
This is my first book.
Yeah, and you talk about your mother in that, don't you? Or at least
always talk about my mother. When you have a mother like mine, that's what you do. You're bruised for life. People still remember when I'm getting letters now from people that I went to college with. I think it's because now they're all retired and have nothing better to do, and they're going to look around and say, who's still alive? And I'm getting honest, and I'm getting other, and they all remember my mother.
Right.
And they didn't like her. They all remember my mother. And she was not really that horrible a person, but she was very strict with me. Right. And in those days, you know, life has changed so much, and I don't actually realize it. Of course, because I don't have children and I don't have grandchildren, thank God. But I don't. This is a blessing that I didn't expect. But what we used to do is we used to gather at other people's homes.
Right.
And we used to go in. I remember we used to go into their house and we'd raid their refrigerator, drink Coca-Cola. Yeah. And talk after school, or we would meet at the ice cream parlor, at Franklin's ice cream parlor, and we would, because we had metabolisms that were, we burned wood, we were, bad, and we would have ice cream sodas that they don't even make anymore, and chocolate milkshakes, and hate our teachers. But you couldn't meet at my house because you couldn't go into my house because my mother kept a clean house. My mother was a Jewish housewife. Kept a clean house, and she was sure that all these people would track mud into her living room.
Right.
And in our living room, we had a big fireplace, but we didn't burn wood because it would dirty the house. But the thing is that we used to gather at each other's homes, and I was never allowed to go anywhere, so everybody remembers that.
Right. Did you have siblings around you at the time?
I had a sister who's 8 years younger, whom I despised. You're out of that. We really are not bringing out the best in me. Shall we talk about it?
I was only interested because I have a similarly overwhelming mother that I've actually had to break contact with. So I find it interesting that obviously these things still have an impact on your life, albeit many, many years afterwards.
It made me funny. I've said the thing that made me funny, and if you read, hint.
Go for it. Plug it. Go for it.
Book.
Yes.
There's a million typos in it. Please forgive me. My editor didn't listen when I said you had to do something, and the whole last half hasn't really been edited right. So it's got lots of, I'm not ignorant. I'll eventually change it. But this has a lot of what happened. But the thing is, it's what made, I was talking to somebody last night about it. They said, why didn't you just give up? Because an awful lot of really terrible things, as I look back, I didn't think they were terrible. I thought they were, that's today.
Yeah.
pull yourself out of this shit today. I don't know whether you know this story, but I always believed that something good was going to happen. And the story that really typifies me is the story of this psychiatrist that was explaining to his class. He was teaching psychiatry, the difference between an optimist and a pessimist.
Right.
And he was explaining it, and he said, I'm going to show you. And he took the class into a room where there was a little boy sitting surrounded by the most beautiful toys, crying. And the psychiatrist said, Billy, why are you crying? He said, well, because if I touch one of those toys, I might break them. And then the psychiatrist said, so now I'm going to show you an optimist. Yeah. And he took him into another room, and the room was filled up to the windowsill with horse shit. And there was a little kid in the middle, and it was a redhead. It was a ginger. And he was throwing shit all over the place and laughing and screaming and happy and giggling. And the psychiatrist said, Malcolm, why are you so happy? And he said, well, with all this horse shit here, there's got to be a pony somewhere. Pretty much. It's the story of my life.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, there's got to be a way. There's got to be someone that won't yell at me. There's got to be someone that'll think I'm wonderful. There's got to be. And I kept looking and looking. And you would think after a few years, it would occur to me that there's going to be no one, but I know that it's someone.
Yeah.
Did you find it sort of cathartic writing the autobiography? Was it? How did you even approach it? Was it? I suppose some of it might come from your stand-up.
But... of my shows and the shows that I've done, and a couple things that I wrote that were new, and the trips that I've taken. The Starving Hearts, which is my first novel, is about what my life was like.
Right.
I've been writing. Writing is what saved me. I've been writing since I was 10. I was published when I was 10.
That's very impressive.
So you were a journalist, am I right in saying, just to sort of clarify for anyone who didn't know, that was your main occupation or?
No, I was a teacher.
A teacher? Oh, right, okay. Wow.
I was both. I have a master's degree in education. And I had a television show on CBS that was absolutely abysmal, and it was called The Little Playhouse. And it was horrible. And my mother, that was the only thing, my mother used to watch it, and they used to film it because it was such a terrible show. They would film it like at 6 in the morning when nobody was watching. And my mother would call up, and it had live children on it.
Okay.
Children in my classes, so everybody loved to be in my class.
So it was filmed in your school, was it? Filmed...
No. I had taught 7-year-olds. I heard from one of the little children. Well, they aren't little now; they're 60 in my class. But yeah, and so they would say, you're in Miss Miller's class, you get to be on TV, and it was CBS. It was CBS.
Yeah.
What was the nature of the show then? What was the program like? What was the setup?
The main thing you have to know is it's the same thing with this little optimist thing, where I know I can do it.
Yeah.
I walked into WTOL. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, which is nothing to be proud of. Anyway, I'm from Toledo, Ohio. And they had just, after I graduated, when I got the master's degree in education, they had just opened up, CBS had just opened up an outlet in Toledo, and it was called WTOL TV.
Right.
And in those days, the commercial television stations had to have a certain amount of public service. That's where you don't get paid. That's also the story.
We're familiar with that. That's our bugbear as well. So yeah.
Well, I think most comedians have this problem.
It is, yeah.
Anyway, I seem to navigate toward these professions where you don't get paid. And I was my father's secretary at the time. And this is also, I was my father's secretary. And in those days, when you were a secretary, of course, you were the same thing it's the same as a prostitute or a housewife. It was the same thing, except I watered the plants. But anyhow, you always wore really high-heeled shoes. And I would be tottering around in my high-heeled shoes. And I walked into WTOL TV just because the door was open.
Right.
I was on my lunch break.
Yeah.
I was walking for exercise. That was about all I ever did to keep fit. And I walked and I can still remember that man's face, and I cannot find his name, and I've been trying because of the book to find what his name was. It was Bob something. And I remember he wore horn ring glasses, and he was very establishment.
Right, okay, yeah.
Came in, and I just had this degree, and the degree is from Toledo University, which has approximately the same standing as the first university ever begun in the Belgian Congo before anyone.
Yeah.
I remember.
And it stood you in good stead.
This was was not a degree that anybody gave a damn about, but I did.
Yeah.
I walked in, and at that time there was a show called Romper Room, and it defied everything I had learned in creative arts for children. So I walked in, and this guy looked at me, and I figured, what the hell is this woman standing in front of my desk? I'm busy. And I said to him, I said, I just saw Romper Room. So he said, well, what'd you think of it? And I said, oh, it was terrible. And he's looking at this woman, and I was really into my anorexia by that time. So I weighed about 1 pound. I mean, it was like a walking skeleton in high heels was standing at his. I looked awful, and I looked at him, and he said, "Well, I suppose you can do better." He's mad at me. Well, you can remember the little optimist in that. I said, "Yeah." No idea what television was. Yes, I can. He said, "Well, if you can find a sponsor, I'll give you a program." And I thought, nobody said to me at home, "If you can find a sponsor, I'll kill your mother." Nobody said that.
If only.
I hadn't had before.
Yeah.
And husband had left. I was already a divorcee.
Right.
So I called the Toledo Art Museum. And remember, television was very new. And I said, well, would you like a program on CBS? Right. And this is, you have to understand what that sounded like. That was, would you like a program on outer space? And
well, it's still a big deal. Still a big deal today.
Yeah.
Never asked me whether it was going to be a good program or not.
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. It was awful. And that's how I got it. So I was on for a year, and then I married again, and I left.
Wow.
What year was that? How old were you then when you did that? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember. I'm thinking I was 28.
Right.
Oh, no, I was 27. I know I was 27 because right before the thing was to begin, now remember, this is my marvelous chance.
Yeah.
Right before, and by that time I was living away from my mother. I had saved enough money to live in a sub-basement.
Right.
Yeah. So I was very moldy. I was in a sub-basement. Yeah. I mean, I used to come out the front door and sort of wipe off the mold.
Must have stood you in good stead for the Edinburgh Fringe, surely, that sort of place.
Worth the rent. But anyway, and I was supposed to go screen the program before it came, it went on the air. And the engineer, who was English, by the way, he was English. His name was Paul. He said to me, I'll drive you down to the station. And I had a pretty bad time with men by that time. The first husband had beaten the crap out of me, and no one else had even looked at me, and my father couldn't even remember my name. So the male part of the species was very frightening to me.
Yeah.
I knew they were either going to hit me or they wouldn't know what the hell I was. So I thought, okay, if I go in the car with this man from England, yeah, I better, because they have different morals than we do, and ours are pretty bad over here too. So I took my knitting to shield myself.
Yeah.
Got in the car and we drove to the station, but some lady was testing a new car and drove into me.
Oh God! Oh, right.
I shot through the windshield. And I can still remember, that's why I know I was 27, because as I shot through the window, I said, I am 27 years old and my life has ended. Whoosh! And I landed on the pavement, and my shoes landed on the front door of the only nightclub in Toledo, Ohio, which was a forecast of what was to come. And my mother was watching the news at the time, and my mother had a smart mouth, like I do. She has a smart mouth.
Right.
And remember, I had anorexia, so I was extremely skinny. And she's watching the news, and she sees this stretcher come out that looks like there's nobody on it, but you see 2 feet.
Yeah.
And my mother's being funny. And she said to my father, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was Lynn Ruth. And then the announcer came out and said, Lynn Ruth Miller, the star of The Little Playhouse. The windshield, and we think she's dead, but they didn't say it that way.
God.
And that was the beginning of my career into
It's certainly an auspicious start, isn't it?
That's incredible.
It was not very auspicious, but that's how and the thing went for a year and a half, 2 years. It got good ratings, but it was really awful.
But I suppose that's how you learn, isn't it? And also, like, telly was learning at that time as well, because it was still early in the...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Television was learning also. They didn't know what they were doing, but it was... I used to have a tape of it, and you would not believe the size of that tape, which is why I don't have it anymore. They put big reel...
Yeah.
Even movies are not like that anymore. Everything's small. This was a great big tape. And when I saw it, I realized why it didn't win an Emmy or anything.
Does it exist anywhere now? Is it on YouTube or anywhere? So like,
No, I wonder if we could
I
find
wonder
it.
if it is.
It went for a long time.
Yeah.
You would think it'd be somewhere.
I married another disaster, and that was when I went back to school and got my degree in journalism.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So when was this? How old were you then? Were you in your 30s or?
Well, no, I was 30 when I went to Stanford because that was the year that John Kennedy was assassinated.
Right. Okay.
And I listened to the whole thing on the classical music station because I couldn't afford a television set.
Right.
And I was in Palo Alto in California, and I was getting a master's in journalism. And when I graduated from Stanford, and you probably don't know about Stanford, but Stanford is, I maintain, the best university in.
It's highly regarded.
It's a well known. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still believe it. And I've gone to a lot of universities in between those husbands and getting thrown around and doing bad TV.
Well, I mean, I find it very impressive. You did all of that prior to JFK's assassination. That's quite impressive to us in this.
Well, I think that the reason was because I wasn't sleeping around.
Right. Okay.
You have a lot of extra time.
Glyn really slept around, so it's still going on.
But yes. So I was busy going to school and getting degrees in between the marriages and the terrible things that have happened. Now, somebody was reading this and they said, God, I don't know why you didn't pick yourself up, why you didn't just give up. Well, you do. Yeah. You lie there and you think, well, what do I do now? Stand up, pick up the pieces. That's what I did.
It's resilience. It's having the...
So when I graduated from Stanford, because I still think, if anyone's listening from Stanford, I still think it's the best university in the country. And I have been to Harvard, and I've visited Princeton, but I think it's the best. And I thought, well, of course I'll get a job. Yeah. Because remember I'm an optimist. Yeah. Because wonderful. I'm wonderful. Yeah. And I didn't get a job. I was 31 when I graduated, all right? Yeah. When I was 70, I was still looking for that job. I still didn't get it.
Yeah. What was the job you wanted? What was the job? What would you have liked to have done at that point? Or
Any.
Yeah. That's a familiar thing right now, isn't it? Yeah.
I will pay you a steady salary and give you fringe benefits. I couldn't get a job. I tried. I mean, and I remember when I finally gave up, it's not going to be education. That's one master's. It's not going to be journalism. What the hell? I'll wait table. And I went to a restaurant, and I was really anorexic. When I look back, I realized I looked terrible because I had been starving myself on a regular basis from the time I was 16 until I was 30. Right. And then I was still skinny. So I went to apply to chain restaurant. I forget what it was, and they took one look at me, and you have to carry trays. Mm-hmm. I didn't look like I could lift a coffee cup. Right. Yeah. And they said, no. So I ended up selling sex. That's what I ended up doing.
As you do.
Oh, wow.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never gave up this hope that I would find this wonderful job in the New York Times.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, obviously your stories are particularly dramatic in terms of the things you experience. But we can't compete with that. But I think isn't that quite common in life? It's like the standard phrase of life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. There's often this route that you're going to. And you never get there, but you go all around the place and experience so many other things.
Because the one thing that was not on my mind, optimistic, as I was digging through all that horse shit trying to find the pony, the one thing that was not on my mind was being a stand-up comedian. I had no idea, but I was very good at telling jokes. And something else that you need to understand about people that have had the kind of life I have, you look for a way to get approval when you're not getting anywhere. And for me, it was always school. Right. I'm very good in school. I don't think I was that intelligent. I think I was it was the only place that I wasn't going to get hit, or nobody was going to scream at me, I'm staying here. So I was very good at school. And if you're very good at school, when I was young, the rest of the kids don't like you very much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're the one that the teacher loves the best.
Yes.
And so you got to make them like you too. To make them like you too, you're funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we do what we do.
It's true.
It's such a common thing. And also learning, like you say, that is the way out of things, is to make a joke. I know certainly I've always done that. I've always, deflected with a joke. Right.
That's right. But it's also safe. If I'm with people, you listen to what's been happening, and I haven't really told you the whole thing. Yeah. Other people, where any other person was a potential threat, just terrified.
Yeah.
But if you're performing, you're one step away from them. Let me tell you this story, which I've told many times, but it really epitomizes why I continued in comedy. After I took this course in stand-up comedy with the idea of writing about it, I was going to expose them. I thought they were ripping off people by trying to make them funny. I was going to expose them, and I was going to get that job in the New York Times. I knew it. It was finally, I was 70. My time has come.
Yeah.
And I did a show, and anybody that knows California, it was Cobb's Comedy Club. And it was not that I was so good. I would love to tell you it was because I was just such a marvelous natural. It wasn't that. It was that the rest of the people were so abysmally bad. It was just so bad that when I got up there, I mean, the audience wept because I told a joke. I mean, I saw people standing going like this. And oh, did you hear that? That said something, because I mean, they were 17, 18 years old. They had nothing to say. So at the end, I mean, the clapping and the roaring. And you have to understand, I was the one that I would come home and my mother would say, "So what did you do today?" I'd say, this time, approval from a bunch of strangers. And then some kid came up to me. He had to be maybe 19 or 20, but remember, I'm 70, so he looked like I thought I was going to have to change his diaper or something. Because I hadn't seen, and I lived a very alone life. Yeah. I hadn't seen young people. And I hadn't seen them. Because by that time I had 2 other television programs that no one paid me for. I was writing a column for the Pacifica Tribune. So I would interview people, but these were all people that were older. I hadn't seen anybody below 50 for really a long time. And this young kid came up to me with his ticket. And he said, "Will you sign it?"
Amazing.
And I looked at him and I thought, oh, and all the love. You were wonderful. And I looked up at him because I'm 4'10" and I look up at everyone. And I looked up at him and I thought, he loves me. I mean, I had 2 men walk out on me. My father couldn't remember my name, and nobody has gone out with me. He said, "This kid loved me."
Yeah.
If I would have let him, he would have taken me out for dinner. And I thought, I didn't have to cook him dinner. I didn't have to change the sheets. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do this again. And that is why I'm here.
Right.
Wow. You just kept doing it again.
I'm 70 years old and I'm driving. I'm still driving. But you people are so lucky I'm not driving here. I have no sense of space. I know it's a miracle I sideswiped all those cars. But anyway, and you drive on the wrong side of the road anyway. So I was driving. I had a car and I had nothing to do. What was I doing? I was 70. I had at that time 3 dogs and 2 cats. I fed the cats. I walked the dog. Nothing else. The 2 television shows.
Yeah.
And so I got in the car and I went to open mics, and that was when I discovered that even if they didn't have to pay me, because I didn't know you made money.
Well, we still don't, so you're all right there.
Oh, I recognize that.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you can tell.
You can tell.
I understand, yeah. And I had no idea you got any money. But what I didn't understand is even if they could have me for nothing, they didn't want me. But remember my background. No one did anyway. I was used to this.
Yeah.
This was a challenge. I was used to this. And I remember I was doing comedy at 50 Mason, and a woman named Betsy Salkin, and I wish she was listening because she's a wonderful comedian. She's now in LA. And not knowing that I was defying I didn't know I was unusual. I really didn't know that what I was doing at 70 was not what any 70-year-old would do if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "Well, if you want to keep doing this," she said, "you're going to have to make your own shows." So if you've been listening, I had to make my own life. I had to make my own life a lot.
Yeah.
I made my own life when I went to Stanford. I made my own life when I moved to California, to San Francisco. I made my own life when I moved to New York. I became a college professor, by the way, in between all this. I was making my own life. I moved to Oklahoma City, and don't ever do that, and I made up my own life there. Yeah. And I was busy making my own life. I've made about 50 lives already. Wow. When she said you have to make your own show, I thought, well, I can do that. And the man that made that possible is still corresponding with me.
Who's that?
His name is Don, and I'm blocking his last name, but Don Holloway. he was running. I lived in Pacifica, California. Pacifica, California is 20 miles south of San Francisco. We consider that I lived in San Francisco, but I didn't. I lived it's a little town with its own newspaper, and half of it is very redneck blue collar, and the other half, bless their hearts, is gay. Right. So this particular bar was for the redneck blue collar people, and it was the bar that as you came off the motorway, that was the bar. And it was called Winter's Bar. And I went up to this guy's name is Don Holloway, and he's from Texas. And I said to him, how would you like comedy? And he said, yeah. And they had, the bar was divided in smack in two. Right. And they had a pool table on the right side, and on the left side, he gave me, I bought the sound system and the microphone because nobody was getting paid. I got the people who were graduates of this college to come to Pacifica, and I would give them money. But I made like $1, like 50 cents, because I passed a bucket. Right. And nobody was listening to us. Nobody. And there was a pool table, and I don't know whether you've ever played pool. I never had, but there was a pool table there. And when it was a difficult shot, the guy would lean over this partition where we're doing our comedy and say, would you tell those comedians to please shut up? And there's a comedian named Sam Arnaud who said, if your ego ever gets out of hand and you want to tame it, go try to do comedy at Winter's Bar.
Yeah.
For about a year and a half, I did it. And then that was when I started burlesque.
Oh. And this was so how old were you then? Were you sort of mid-70s or?
No, I was about 73.
Right.
And a young man whose sister sang in a group called the Golden Bow, and his name was Ian. And he said to me, why don't you add songs to your comedy?
Yeah.
I said, well, because I can't sing.
It never stopped William Shatner, so you're all right.
I mean, I can't do much, but I do it anyway.
Well, yeah.
And I said, well, I can't sing. He said, well, that's funnier. One of the things people don't know is I have a lot of songs that you haven't heard. I have a parody to a Sex Pistols song.
Right, okay.
Yours at everyone, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he made up an accompaniment for the song that I remembered from the 40s. And that song is the Strip Polka.
Right, okay.
If you've never heard it, it's really wonderful. It's making fun of burlesque. Best line in it is, her name is Queenie, and the guy singing it says that they're at the show, and he says, take her out when it's over. She's a peach when she's dressed. That's the best line. So I sang that at Winter's Bar, and since she was yelling, take it, the audience yells, take it off, take it off. So I thought, well, I better take off something.
You can't disappoint them, can you? Ultimately, that's the thing.
Yeah. I off something. So I got some fancy underwear. Now just remember what my life was like before, and you wouldn't understand because it's American underwear, but they were undershirts and lollipop pants. They were the underwear. I could have worn it out on the street and nobody would have looked twice. They covered a lot of. So I looked around, and I think I went to a secondhand shop and I got some fancy underwear, and I got a bathrobe, and I'm singing take it off, and I'm taking it off, and my accountant. And everybody at Winter's Bar is paying no attention whatsoever.
Yeah.
But my accountant, why the hell I had an accountant, I will never know.
Why they were there.
Well, yeah.
My income was so far below poverty level that the government paid me. Poverty level at that time was 21,000, and my income was 14. So anyway, so there's my accountant, and he was wonderful. His name was Robbie, and he kept canaries in his office. I loved him. Anyway, he was there. He was the only audience, and I'm singing "Take It Off, Take It Off," and he felt so sorry for me. He put a $5 bill, which is the equivalent of a £1 note. He put a $5 bill in my brassiere.
While you were doing the routine?
Well, I stopped for a moment while he was doing it.
That's confusing as well, because like tax deductible, but yet he's paying you, and I can't quite work out what that means. Whether
right in my my little teddy and my 15 slips and my off clothes.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, no one's been in there since I was 25, because the second husband didn't go in there. So.
Right. Didn't anticipate the next one would be your accountant. It's just
yeah. So I mean, nobody had been anywhere near that area of my body since I was 25. I didn't even do checkups.
No, right.
I was not there.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I'm going to do this. Pretty much, I think that's a direct quote. Oh!
It's just a fair reaction, I think, at that point.
Kind of makes sense.
And also that he was there.
Yeah.
I mean, so what are you doing there? I mean, you're supposed to be doing accounting. But anyway, and I said, I'm going to do this again. And at that time, I went to the Edinburgh Festival. But I remember I was going to the Edinburgh Festival to review books.
So were you traveling over to this country at that point quite a lot?
On that money. I don't know how the hell I did it.
No.
Although you have to think, someone once said this to me. They said, people like you never spend money. He said, you're right. I never do. When you're that poor, and you cannot, someone said to me, did you worry about whether you were depressed or not? I said, I didn't have time to worry about anything like that. Yeah. I was worried about where I was going to find something to eat. That I could afford and pay rent. Yeah. I used to walk to the store rather than spend money on gasoline, and gasoline was not that expensive. I spent nothing. Yeah. And so I was able to go to Edinburgh every year from 1988 on.
Wow.
And I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did. Yeah. And then, after I took this comedy course, I knew Hartley Kemp at C Venues. His venue did drama, and I reviewed drama.
Right, okay.
And before the comedy thing, I had decided I was going to be a famous author. That was the other life. And I wrote 11 novels and peddled them all over. And I finally got the one, The Starving Hearts, published. I published it because the publisher withdrew. I mean, this is what happens.
Yeah.
When they asked for more books after Starving Hearts, I compiled the columns I've been doing into Thoughts While Walking the Dog. So I was promoting these books, and at the end of the reading, I would do a reading. No one would buy any books. I would do a reading, and then I would tell canned jokes. You know, a grasshopper walked into a bar. The joke about the optimist, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they kept asking me, but nobody bought any books, but they kept asking me back. Of course, they didn't pay me either. They kept asking me back to tell jokes, and I ran out of jokes, and that's how I found out. Well, anyway, but in the meantime, I went to this college, and I knew all these young comedians who couldn't tell jokes either, and I called Hartley, I wrote him, and I said, how would you like comedy from San Francisco? Now stop and think. This is 2014.
Yeah.
He's thinking Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Oh.
Steve Martin.
Oh, I'd love that. And I brought him. I'm ashamed. I'm really ashamed because he had faith in me. But they were featuring burlesque at that time, and there was a woman named Laura Davis, who is a darling, who is no longer here because she didn't have a proper visa, and they threw her out of the country, so now she's in California. Nice. But she was the PR lady, and she said, they're really doing burlesque. They're doing a lot of burlesque. Do you have any burlesque?
Right.
And you went,
oh my God, I might get, do you have any $5 bills over there? She said, no.
Yeah. Is it basically that whatever question you're asked, you'll say yes, and then it will lead to that next thing? Yeah. That's amazing.
So I finished each show, but I have a really good story for you for this. I finished each show. Of course, I got a bigger bra because you have coins.
Yeah, true, yeah.
And I had hope.
Do you take contactless or?
No. So I finished it. The line was, oh, we have a special guest from North Beach in California. Here comes Queenie. And I was really the hit. I was the hit of the festival. I jumped out of a cake for the Odeon's birthday. I was the hit. And the rest of the comedians, I'm sorry if any of you were listening, got what they deserved, which was nothing, because they were terrible. But anyway, and then Kerry Norman, who is now, he's got all kinds of stage names, is very successful. He was doing a cabaret from Oxford, and he saw me, and I did nightly shows for him at the Carlton Hotel. I was living. And then to pay for this show, because you all know how expensive Edinburgh is.
Yes.
An art show. I don't know whether you can see this. I painted all those things.
I've been looking at those actually as well. I've been wondering.
I spotted the easel as well. Yeah.
Collage. Yeah. So I did a paint with Lynn show for him for nothing.
Yeah.
I always want to do a show for children, and I did it. And the idea was they had to bring a child, but they had to be accompanied by a parent because I didn't want to babysit. And I want to tell you, I mean, Scottish mothers. God, they believe in their children. They brought me children that were breastfeeding, and they said, yes, Malcolm can draw. I said, well, get him. He's going to have to use both hands. Yeah. And this old man walked in, and this is a true story, with a young boy. And I said, "Is that your grandchild?" "Honey," because I'm American. "Honey, is that your grandchild?" And he said, No. He said, "That's my son." And I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, I do comedy." I said, "Oh," I said, "I do comedy too." I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Billy Connolly." And I said, "Well, how do you do? How do you do?" I said, "I have this show and we have guests." I still can't believe I did this. We have guests all the time, and you are welcome.
Did he do it, is the question.
I'm only going to give him 5 minutes, because if he's that old, I know he's fucking someone young, and that's not what I approve of there. That kid, no. So I said, "You can have 5 minutes in my show." And I want to tell you, I want everyone to know that this man was so polite. I mean, he should have either picked up his kid and walked out, or smacked me, or something. Or, "Do you know who I am?" He was so polite.
I'm not surprised.
To me, "That is so lovely of you." And I certainly will try to get over there. And it was just wonderful.
But I think if you were to do that to any one person, I think that was the best person to do it to, because he's got such a wonderful reputation. I mean, he started in the steelworks, didn't he? So he's just such a very extraordinary man.
It was just so lovely. And after the show was over, and you have to realize that this Paint with Lynn was also a hit. Thousands of little children were coming, and they were eating the crayons, and they were... And after it was over, I called Laura. I said, "Say, you know anyone named Billy Connolly?" "Well, I don't have to tell you. That was
yeah, incredible.
That is a true story. And another one was Paul Zenon and Michael were doing a show at the Assembly Rooms, and they heard about this old lady that was taking off her clothes. And what they would do, they were on a bed. They were on a bed. And after you did your show, you would sit on the bed and talk to them.
Right.
But because I was unusual, and also because I think they were afraid I wouldn't be able to stand up, I stayed on the bed for the whole show.
Right.
So flash ahead 15 years. I'm in Brighton, and this man that I have no idea who that is, because I can't even remember my own name, says to me, "Oh," I said, "Hello, do you remember me? I'm Paul Zenon." I said, No. He said, "Yeah, we were in bed together." I'm thinking, I'd remember that.
Yeah. I once spotted Paul Zenon in a bar in the middle of the red light district in Amsterdam, which is probably where that story should end. But,
really? Oh, I only ever saw him backstage during a pantomime, but that was my.
Oh, really?
My
That shows that shows where I hang around and where Glyn hangs around.
Yeah, exactly. Did he? What I wanted to ask, because there's so many things I wanted to ask. I mean, did all of that kind of lead to then you doing America's Got Talent? Am I right? And then doing Britain's Got Talent. Was that kind of people finding you?
It was right around the time that I was dragging people to Edinburgh to do shows, and I met Billy Connolly. It had to be, because it was the third year of America's Got Talent. Remember, I have no television set.
Yeah.
I have never heard of anything like that.
Probably the best way with something like that.
I was very computer savvy. Ha, 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 ha. I was very computer savvy. And I'm looking, and I was sending emails to people, and I look at my email, and in the inbox I get a letter, and remember the little girl that's looking for the pony?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it says, "Do you have talent?" You think
Rag to a bull.
Yeah.
Of course I have talent. So I wrote them. And I mean, I need to tell you that the God's honest truth is I don't have any talent. Anything I've gotten, I've made happen. Anything. This painting that you see, I started when I was 30, and I taught art appreciation, and I am telling you, this stuff is shit. I've been doing it for 50 years. Now, at least you can recognize something. With the comedy, I had no talent to begin with. I made it happen.
But that's such a big part of the deal, though, isn't it? I think that's such a big part of the deal. And I would disagree that you do clearly have talent. Yeah. But I think to have the confidence to give things a go and to say yes rather than no to a job.
Do you understand the word chutzpah?
Yes. Yeah.
You understand? And can I define it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Good. Yeah.
A man murders his parents and then goes to the judge and applies for child support because he's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have chutzpah.
Yeah.
It's the persistence. And that's something that nobody in my class has continued. I think Joe Gleckler did it for a few years after. He did it for a while. But nobody in my class that I studied with is still doing comedy.
Right.
They stop. Comedy for many, many comedians, I'm sure present company excluded, are psychologically completely messed up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and I certainly am one of them. And the safety, and remember what I said at the very beginning of this, the thing we're most afraid of is other people. You're connecting with an audience, and that's why Zoom comedy is so difficult.
Yes.
When you're connecting with an audience, you're getting the love and the adulation for me that I didn't get from my mother, I didn't get from my husbands, I didn't get from the people that beat me up, I didn't get from the editors that didn't want me, I don't get from the major comedy things in London. I'm getting it from that audience.
Yes.
And with me, because I'm also giving them hope, I really am, I'm giving them hope. Look what a mess she is, we can do this too. So they will follow me out. They will when I go to Top Secret, they get up and follow me. We want to be you when we grow up. And I said, listen, if you want to be me, you have to do all the other things. You have to fly through a windshield. You have to, you want to do it, you're gonna do the other things too.
Yeah. And that's what makes you the person that you are. But for me, that's the best kind of comedy, and that's the best kind of, I think, like you're saying about, there'll be certain clubs in London that are very much tailored to the sort of stag do.
The guy's name is Don. All you talk about the Comedy Store. And he said,
I read this. Yeah.
I said, well, guess what? We want me to talk about being 16? Nobody would believe what it was like when I was 16. It's just unbelievable to this generation. We ate macaroni and cheese and didn't think it was unhealthy. 16. You don't know what 16 was like when I was little.
but also, it's such an extraordinary thing for that guy to say, the Comedy Store guy, because, it's bullshit, for one. It's just utter bullshit. But the fact is that you're talking about yourself. To have the voice. Like you were saying when you had the people at the comedy course, you at least have the benefit of lots of experience to draw from, to have the right to be standing there talking about it.
It's the way you look at things. I believe, and this is present company excluded also, Jewish people are naturally funny. The reason they are is because they're a minority. And in order to be accepted, we go right back to the same thing. To be accepted, you're funny, you're amusing. Jewish people are funny. I remember this young kid that said to me, he was Jewish, and he said, I'm not funny, I couldn't tell a joke. I said, you had a mother, didn't you? Yes. I said, she was Jewish, wasn't she? Yeah. I said, you can tell a joke. Tell me about your mother. We'll think it's funny. You'll cry, but we'll think it's funny. Yeah.
And that's it. And and when you talk about, obviously, we're only like really touching on it here because we only got so much time. But you keep saying you never considered comedy, but it seems like such an obvious, from the outside looking in, place for you to end up, because all of the things are, one, about confidence being a prime thing, or certainly confidence to speak to people, confidence to say you can do it.
I was not confident.
No,
I was not confident at all. But I was a university professor.
Right. Yeah.
When I couldn't get jobs, I had to.
Yeah.
When you lecture to 500 people, speaking in front of a bunch of people, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be the thing that most people are most afraid of.
It's the thing people always say about stand-up, don't they? They say, I'd never be able to do that.
I have confidence. If you would see me after a set, I'm shaking. I'm a wreck. I know nobody thinks, everybody says, oh, look how confident she was. Terrified. I cannot eat before I do comedy. Absolutely cannot. Because otherwise I'll have to do the whole comedy set sitting on the loo. Because that's what happens. I get so nervous. And when somebody asks me, if you see me after and you're thinking I'm in heaven because people have laughed and they think I'm adorable, and but I'm shaking. I can't hold a paper. But my coat. I'm like that. Still, 17 years.
Do you find if you ever get to watch your stuff back that you get...
I hate it.
You can't. Right. Yeah. I was going to say, because I wondered whether you'd see it and go, okay, I can see, I don't know, enjoy the comfortableness, but is it more just you can't? It's fair enough.
God, I messed that up.
Yeah.
Or,
right.
You should have combed your hair.
But I think so many performers feel that, because that's the thing that strives to make everything you do better, I think.
That's what I was going to say. Do you not believe that this is what pushes me? There's a guy named Grant Lyon, and I hope he's listening because he's a poop. Full of confidence. And he won an award, and then he did comedy, and he was headlining because he won this big award, and nobody laughed. And immediately, I'm very compassionate because that happened to me. I would immediately take arsenic and forget it. Nobody laughed for the whole 40 minutes. And I went up to him afterwards, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he said, "I can't help it if they're so stupid they don't catch it." I thought, "Oh,
hello, yeah, Christ."
Yeah.
Still doing comedy. I don't know whether he's managed to absorb a little bit of humility or not. But I remember him, and he really isn't very funny. No. And I find that the best comedians are not the comedians that are the very big names are funny.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the next segment. They're on TV. They're getting columns. They're okay. They're amusing. But the really funny people are the people that don't have to worry about being woke. And the really funny people are the people that tell you what life is really like.
Yes.
Not the ones that are saying what's accepted. They're the ones telling you, listen, I had to dig my way out of a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And you have to too. T.S. Eliot says, mankind cannot stand too much reality. And I'm not quoting it exactly, but that's it. Mankind cannot withstand too much reality. Yeah. And that's in his poem, Burnt Norton. But it's true, we can't. And when they homogenize these shows to put them on television, they're losing the whole point of why comedy became big. Because comedy became big because someone was really telling. George Carlin, I think, was one of those, telling it like it really is.
Well, a comic that comes up regularly.
When he set himself on fire. I mean, I can relate to that.
I think we all can. But I was going to say a name that comes up often in our podcast, and for that reason, is Phil Kay. Are you familiar with Phil Kay, Scottish comic? Oh, you need to see him. Beardy, Phil Kay, Kay. He's one of those people. Yes.
Oh, I know his name. No, I've not.
He's glorious, and for that exact reason, because most of the time he's just talking about his day that day, but it's just he's surreal, but he's a wonderful storyteller, and it doesn't translate to telly. It's one of those things. He's had a couple of shows, I think, in the 80s. They didn't really take because it's mostly improvised, but he is. I'm sure you would love him. He's just one of the most talented people we've ever. And so many comics say, "Oh yeah, Phil Kay's our favourite," but for that reason.
There's a man in San Francisco whose name is Johnny. Oh God, what's Johnny? And I'll think of his last name in 2 minutes. He should be on every TV program. He should be everywhere. He is so unbelievably funny, but he's not acceptable. He says things that are. God, I can't believe that I can't remember Johnny's last name, but he is just so good. And I had him do comedy for the students at Stanford University when I was there, and he did an entire hour on the thermostat.
Right, yeah. Another one, I don't know if you know James Acaster, the young comic James Acaster. Yes. He played our very early first few mostly comedies. He came to do an hour, and it was basically talking about something to do with the room the whole way through. And it was just glorious, because he's, again, just a fantastic storyteller with a perspective. Even though he's young, he's got a really sort of clear perspective that's just him. And I think that's why it works so well. But
beautiful. And it's something that we need to encourage. One of the things that I think is awful about this pandemic, and I can tell you about 500 things that are awful, is that it's crippled the entertainment industry.
Massively, yeah.
And we don't really know how it's going to come out either.
No, I was going to say actually right at the beginning, but have you done any or many gigs online? Because we really haven't
we avoid them for that reason.
Quite a lot for that reason.
Well, for me, I'm able to tell longer stories, which I love.
Yeah.
Because I can tell whether they're laughing or not.
Yeah.
Not as many as I would like, but I've done many Zoom things, and you can't judge the audience reaction. No. And difficult because it explains, or it has to do with what I say next. You don't think that you're editing as you're going, but I've always said that comedy is three things. You're doing three things while you're up there. Of course, some people are doing a lot more, but three things. You're talking. You're saying what you're saying. You're thinking, how is it going over?
Yeah.
And you're about what you're going to say next, and how it's going over changes what you're going to say next.
Absolutely.
While you're still talking.
Yeah.
You're still
so
saying.
True. So true, yeah.
Got to do that to be a good comedian. But you also have to love it. You have to love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I had 3 gigs this weekend.
Right.
God, I was 21 years old. I was 36, 21, 36.
And I imagine you must be very hungry then to go back to doing shows as you would do.
Yes. And when this happened, I had to cancel Dublin. And I remember it was in March, and I was supposed to go the next weekend. And the Laughter Lounge, I think her name was Heidi, she wrote me and she said, "No, we're definitely doing this." And 2 days later, she said, "Stay home. They're not flying."
Yeah.
To take away this thing that takes people out of themselves, when at this time, people need it more than top secret. As soon as they lifted, in between that little hiatus we had, in between 10 minutes, Mark Rothman was putting on a show. And I went there, and that audience, they wanted so badly to laugh. They didn't care. I just got there, "Hello, I'm Lynn Ruth Miller. I just said something funny." They said, "Ha ha." I just said something else that was funny. "Ha ha ha." They so needed to stop thinking about themselves, to stop thinking, "Oh my God, I touched that. Will I get it? Am I going to die? Am I going to go on a ventilator?" Entertainment is the one thing that can pull you out of that miasma, give you a chance to get perspective.
Absolutely.
I'm terribly upset with the way this has been handled, and I don't want to be the one that says I think they're making a mistake, which of course everyone can tell I do. But I think that the price that we're paying for what I believe is pseudo-safety is immense. I was an abused woman, and I can tell you right now that with all these holier-than-thou people that say, "Well, there's a number you can call," there would have been no way I could have gotten out of the house. No way. He would have kicked me in the face if I would have tried to get out of the house, aside from the fact that I was in my nightgown. Now, I don't know what other people wear when they're getting abused. I don't think they have a chance to choose their outfit. No. But, I think I'll wear something with my coat so I can go outside. There is no way that they can get help until it's too late. And children don't even understand that it's abuse. No. When I was practice teaching, I will never forget this, and my God, this was 1953, and I remember it as if it was yesterday. I was practice teaching in kindergarten, that's 5, and this adorable little kid got up. We did a thing called show and tell, which, by the way, is funnier than any comedy show I've ever seen. The children tell you about themselves.
My son does that now. Yeah,
I love it. It's so marvelous. I can tell you wonderful stories, but this kid, it wasn't funny. This kid got up, and he must have been, if he was 3 feet tall, he was tall, and he got up and he had no front tooth. So remember, when they're 5, they're not losing their teeth. No. They lose it when they're 7, which so I said, "Leon," and he's talking, and of course he's just sort of babbling, and I said, "Leon, you lost a tooth." I said, "That's wonderful," thinking, "Oh, did you put it under the pillow?" He said, "Daddy did it," which meant that his father smacked him in the face. Now, if that happened now, a teacher would go down to the principal and say, "I think social services should do that." Nobody did anything.
Right.
I had a little boy, I put the story on my YouTube, and this is when I was teaching. And I went to his house. I was teaching in the slums of Brookline, Massachusetts. And Brookline, Massachusetts has the highest income level of any place in the United States. So the slums, those are the people that are cleaning their houses and washing their cars. Right. That's what I'm teaching. It's Pierce Primary School. And this kid said to me, "I want you to meet Mommy." So I was brought up in an upper middle class Jewish home. My big challenge every day, besides avoiding my mother, was which cashmere sweater I should wear with which skirt. That was the big issue. So this kid said to me, "I want you to meet Mommy." And I thought, "Oh, I'll meet his mommy." So I went with him, and I can still see it. We walked into this tenement. I don't think there was a front door. It was just a hole. And you walked in, and you walked up, and Kevin must have been on the 8th floor. There was one toilet on each floor, no door. The odor was unbelievable. We get to the top, and she's on the left, and the other one's on the right. I walk in, and there's a woman passed out. That's the mother, in a one room with 6 or 8 little kids sitting around. And he says, "Mommy, wake up. This is teacher." And she manages to come to and gives me the story about the guy that comes and beats her. And I was horrified. I was absolutely horrified. The next day, I went to the principal. I said, "Do you realize how these children live?" And he said, "That's why we give free lunches at school." All right? So now, Kevin now thinks that I'm God. And St. Patrick's Day, he's Irish. St. Patrick's Day, every morning, his mother gave him $1, and he went. She gave him, maybe it was a quarter, 25 cents. And he went and bought her coffee and a donut before he came to school. Right. That's what this kid did.
Yeah.
He was the oldest. The rest of them were young. I mean, there were just teams of children in there. And on St. Patrick's Day, he gave me a gift. He gave me a little hanky with a green ribbon.
Right.
And the next day, he came to school with a black eye and a bruised cheek. What happened was he took the mother's money, and instead of getting her coffee, he got me the...
Right.
Yeah, and you're looking shocked. I mean, and I told the principal, I was beside myself.
Yeah.
Do that, you can have children being beaten up like that. And he said, "You can't change the world, Miss Miller." Mrs. Trigger, that was
crazy.
And the sad thing is, obviously, any child in that position, that is their world. And one they...
saying, David, that's the point. They don't know.
No, and that's the thing. And also, the child often feels that they're the problem, and that they're sort of taught that as well. And it's awful.
At this thing this now where you did the homeschooling, my mother from a Romanian immigrants. They couldn't. I don't want to tell you what they did to English. The only people that could understand them were people that loved them, because I mean they murdered the English language. My grandma, who was an angel. My grandma was an angel, but if she couldn't have homeschooled my mother, she couldn't read. What's happening to these children? The cost of this is something I think we're going to be paying for years and years and years. If this and women that no longer feel that they have currency, and men are being abused too. Just
of course.
Think they're being abused too, and don't have the courage. There's no organizations for them.
No, this is it. And also the attention and the money isn't put into social work like it is. But even that, I mean, the problem is, how do you get to it? How do you get to these people? Because they are trapped in that world, and there is... Yeah.
It's education. Education. And one of the things, now I don't know about your education school, and education has changed immensely since I went to school for it. But education, the dumbest idiots were in school with me. They were the ones that said, "Well, I'll teach school until I get married." The dumbest, most materialistic bitches. Those were what I taught with. Nobody gave a shit about the kids. I remember when they had a big meeting at Toledo University. Remember, that's the university? Faculty meeting. And we're doing classes in Quonset huts. Terrible conditions for these children.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh boy, I'll go to this meeting and we'll talk about how we can get funds and we can get decent classrooms. All they talked about is how they were going to make a room for teachers, a special teachers room where they could have alcohol. Why are you in this profession? I don't know how people are now. I hope to hell it's different.
It's changed. I think it's changed. I mean, even in our time, I think it's changed. I remember secondary school and some school teachers were really, really sort of in it for themselves and really didn't care. And then there were like others that were really passionate and you sort of learned and were hugely inspired by it. And I feel like with my son, so far, fingers crossed, he's 7. He's 7. He's been through, and so it's only early on really still in school. But all the teachers I've found have been really inspiring. So, you know, fingers crossed, that's kind of the way it continues.
I can't tell parents enough. You've got to go there, because I remember this wonderful woman who was divorced, and instead of struggling, she moved into her mother's home, and she said, "I will never let my children suffer for my bad decision." And one of the things she said to me is, "I will not send them to nursery school or to school when they're so young." She said, "Because they're so little, they don't know what's wrong. They come home and they're crying, but they don't know why. They don't know what's wrong. And the good ones are overlooked. The good ones are sitting there, they're being really polite like mommy told them to be, and nobody pays any attention. They're paying attention to the little shit that's throwing garbage."
It's crowd control, isn't it, basically? Yeah.
But those little shits that are throwing garbage, those are going to be the comedians.
Yeah, there is that.
It's true. Hey, I don't envy teachers. Having homeschooled for however many months it was, 4 months, I don't envy them at all. And it was the best.
Folks, now you know why teachers are underpaid.
This is it.
But I love teaching. I mean, I know I need to tell you, I love that. I've loved every job I've had. I love teaching, but I didn't grade my children.
Right.
I refused to give my children grades because I was convinced it would ruin their lives.
Right.
So I gave them all A's.
Wow.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Because if you try and subscribe to the idea of like this structured thing that is teaching and what it should be, it's not really what it's about, is it? It's about inspiring kids. It's about, giving them something to connect with. And you never forget, I'm probably like you never forget the teachers that do that for you. You never forget them. And they...
Exactly.
From a kid that remembered me, and it was so exciting. But I remember my children, that there were so few teachers where I taught, and I taught in Cleveland, I taught in Brookline, Massachusetts, with Cambridge, really, and I taught in Toledo, and then and I never remember any of them that really cared about the children. They cared about the paycheck. They cared about the fringe benefits. And what a terrible thing because you send your kid there, and you think, the teacher said you were bad, and the kid says, well, I don't know what I did, and you think, well, the teacher does.
Well, yeah.
Frightening responsibility to be a parent.
Yes. And I think Glyn's right. Even in our lifetimes, things have definitely changed in terms of where the sort of attention is on these things, and education is definitely the thing ultimately for everyone to make people understand the rights they should have. And that
begins. That's when this Me Too movement happened, which of course is still going on. Barbara Kingsolver, who is a lovely, lovely writer, and it's her early books that I love best, and one of them is called The Bean Tree. It's absolutely marvelous. She said, you gotta start by teaching your children. And she said, she has daughters, and she says, every morning I say to them, all right, let's practice. No, I don't want to do that. Thank you, but no, I don't want to do that. I don't want, that's not, no, thank you very much. No. I was taught to please men. I was taught that's your meal ticket. And you can see what a good job I did on that. That's your meal ticket. But this is the point. We were taught to please. And my friend, I have a wonderful friend, who said to me, people from our generation, women, are enablers. Because that's what we were taught to do.
Yeah.
Education is where it all begins. I remember I went to see a play in Edinburgh about God, you know what it is because you're younger. It's that sex scene with gay men where they have parties and they do drugs and they have sex. It's a special thing they all do. And the play, well, I mean, the special thing they all do, but they're taking a lot of drugs and it's called something, and this play was about it. And everybody there was there because they were going to see a bunch of gay men getting it on with each other. And the end of the play, and I'm crying, and I cried. And at the end of the play, the line that is the most beautiful line is everybody is passed out and they're high and they're zonked out. And this one character says, I don't see people having fun. I see a lot of unhappy people. Unhappy is where we need to begin. Unhappy, there's a reason why people are unhappy. And we need to attack that reason.
Yes.
And we do it when we do comedy. We're saying, get out of yourself for 5 minutes. And we're also seeing the funny in tragedy.
And that's the thing that, I used to do it with my dad, because my dad, when he was getting more and more unwell, I would make jokes about the things that were going on in his sort of health, and he would be at the gigs. He'd always be at the gigs, and you would hear him laughing because, for example, he had a hernia for 30 years, but he didn't tell anyone, and he worried about that. Thought it was clearly something wrong when obviously it wasn't that serious. But he was worried about that for so long. But I ended up doing some material about it, and he was at the back of the room just loving it and laughing, and the release of it.
There's a wonderful, I need to tell you this story because this tells you the importance of laughter. I was doing comedy. I remember I would take any gig, and I was doing comedy for a bunch of Alzheimer's. And I'm doing comedy, and they're falling asleep, and they're slipping out of their chairs, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing this for? And when I left, there was a man named Victor, and he said to me, come meet my wife. And the wife is in a coma.
Nice. Yeah.
And he's sitting, I'm not looking, that's his wife. And he said, yeah. And then he said, I loved your jokes. And he started telling me jokes. She's lying there. She's been there for 2 weeks. And I'm telling him jokes, and he's telling me jokes. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she laughs.
Incredible.
I will never forget that.
That's
Her name was
beautiful.
Ginny.
And it tells you a lot, doesn't it? You've probably seen like the videos of say someone who's suffering from Alzheimer's hears a blues record or something and remembers it.
Remembers.
And goes to the piano and plays it, and you see like the light come on. I think music, comedy, very closely related. these things touch bits that nothing else does, and it's so important. And that just shows you, doesn't it, that, just to be present of a joke.
Yeah, but we can do it, and we do it for others because we've been through it ourselves, because we have, that's the art. That's the art, David, of seeing the funny.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything goes nuts, and I do a thing about mornings.
Right.
And everything that happens in the morning. When I do that thing, it all actually happened to me.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, I tangled up in the sheets. The coffee fell on the floor.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you'll love Phil Kay when you get to see him, because exactly what he does, isn't it? Yeah, he'll tell stories about the most mundane things, and it's kind of magical in a weird way. It's just so good.
I remember Johnny's last name was Johnny Steele, and that's Johnny Steele with the thermostat.
Yeah.
I had never laughed so hard. I was just like, "Oh." But this is what we do. And when we do it, and we've got this audience, they want to laugh. That's the thing that comedians forget.
Yeah.
They want to laugh so badly. You've got everything going for you. They're not sitting there saying, make me laugh. They're there. They paid money.
Yeah.
They want to make them laugh, and they're willing to laugh at anything. You've got everything going for you.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I never ever say it was a bad audience.
No.
You missed the cues. I always listen. I always try to listen to see how conservative they are. But there was somebody else that said this to me, who said, funny is funny. And the most conservative audience, because Spiky Mike will put me in some of these audiences, these people are really conservative Tory audiences. And I say pretty outrageous things.
Yeah.
Of course, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I say them.
Yeah.
And it's never not gone over. They love it. They think it's funny. If it's funny, it can't just be shocking.
That lasts for about 5 or 10 minutes. You get the shock laugh, you can do that, but it's got to have more substance. And you say it's got to be funny. And funny continues to be funny forever, I think, irrespective of your background.
I wouldn't give up. This is the best career. I mean, I educated for 2 others. But this is wonderful thing, and I'm just hoping that I can continue. So I do want to invite you to my finale.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to come back to Hitchin. You have to come back.
Yeah.
No, I am, yeah. It's going to be October 11th, 2033. It's going to be in Leicester. You'll have to come up.
Okay.
Leicester's okay. We can do that.
Yeah.
Crow has it in his diary. We haven't decided the theater yet because we don't know what's still going to be there. 2033.
2033. Okay.
And you see, this is the crazy thing, because you're only a step away. You're 100. You'd be 100 then. That's
100.
extraordinary. And it's only really a heartbeat away, isn't it? Really.
Well, no, I figure I'll be about 3 feet tall, and I'll be in a diaphanous gown, and I will. All the people that have been shitting to me are going to be in the audience, so I can show them. And I'm this absolutely marvelous show. And at the finale, what's his name? Tommy.
Oh, Tommy Cooper.
That's right.
That's going to be the ending, is it?
I am going to thank the audience before I do this, and then I'm going to drop dead.
What a way to go.
Wow.
Jeff Rose said to me, so who gets the money?
Yeah. There is that. I mean, I know it's almost crass to say, but it's genuinely true. You are an inspiration. What you do
Massively.
do what you do now, and to only started it at 70 or 71, and not to mention all the others. I mean, everything to have got through and done what you've done. That's truly inspiring. And
The thing that's important, though, is I do make people laugh. It isn't.
Yes. No.
They're laughing because I'm old.
No.
Yes.
No, I want them to laugh because I'm funny.
Exactly, because you're good. That's the reason, of course. And anyone, that fucking bloke at the Comedy Store misunderstands the whole point of it. That's just bullshit. It's because you're good. That's the reason. And you have a voice that is very clear.
Absolutely.
The people that are listening, if there is anyone listening, if you want to do this, I'm sure there isn't, but if you want to do this, you got to pay your dues. You've got to do it.
Yes.
And you got to go through the times, the open mics, and the because it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody said to me, where do you get all your energy? And I said, of course, it's not energy, it's fear. But that isn't it. I don't care. But it isn't that. It's that, my God, I love what I'm doing. Now, all of you go to your great-grandmas and your grandmas who are in their 80s, 87, and say, so, how was your day? And they're going to say, well, my hip hurts, my knee hurts. Nothing hurts.
Yeah. And that's the answer, isn't it? I think.
Amazing.
Dick Van Dyke is a perfect example. Dick Van Dyke, who's like 93, 94, still going.
Oh, is he still going? Yeah.
And he's extraordinary. He still dances.
Peter Graham's father, he's in his 80s, he's in his 90s, but he plays He plays, we call it a xylophone. It's a thing he plays.
Yeah, right.
He's still doing gigs.
Yeah. And he's like a spring chicken to you, but one of my huge heroes is Paul McCartney. He's 78. He's still playing 3-hour gigs. It's extraordinary because he just loves doing it. It's just the love of doing it, and it keeps you alive, doesn't it? That's the thing. You've stumbled across the secret, I think, of life.
It's all about doing. It must be, and I don't know if this is true, but I imagine it must be just finding something that you love. And I know you said that you loved every job you've had, but is this the one? Is this?
You know what this reminds me of? I have a friend named Susie who had 2-3 failed relationships that she tried to make work. And then she met Rosie and she said to me, okay, when I taught, I loved it. But there were always things about it, like the administration, like grading children. When I sold sex, I really loved it until I found out I was selling sex. I thought I was fixing up people. When I do journalism, I absolutely loved it. I loved every job, but then I did comedy and it wasn't a job.
Yeah. That's
exactly.
it. That's the secret, isn't it?
And it just absolutely sings through across the internet. You can feel the love of that. And we've got Pete Hayne who's listening in, says, loved every minute of that. Thanks so much. Let's get together soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
I love that. And I want to sing. I'll have you sing.
Please do.
I'll keep my clothes on if you
Hey.
want.
See which way it goes. Just see how it goes. If your accountant's there, make your choice then, I guess.
Yeah.
But
thank you so much. This has gone on way too long.
no, it's been lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this, Lynn Ruth. Well, get that bloody vaccine so then you're safer, and then come
let
out
us
and
know.
see us.
Let us know how that goes, and then
I will. Yeah.
You're the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Date in Leicester.
Yeah. We'll see.
Listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye for now.
We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Take care.
So that was Lynn Ruth Miller.
Yes.
Born on the same year that Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, and luckily she didn't form some sort of fascist regime, which is one of the good things you can say about her.
What year was that actually? Because I never.
1933.
33. Okay, cool.
Yeah. My wife said that's one of the only things she learnt in history. So whenever that year comes up, she goes, "Oh yeah, Hitler was Chancellor of Germany."
I never learned that in history. I don't think I imagine that must have been because that would have been his early kind of upright early.
That's the. What did you learn? What fact comes straight to mind? Say in history, what thing do you just definitely know? Do you know anything? Or I mean, I'm surprised.
I can't.
Surely
think of any.
Not 1066, Battle of Hastings. That one didn't come out. No.
Yeah, I went to the Bayeux Tapestry.
Did you
remember that?
You're not impressed.
No, that was the thing. Well, that was 1066. That was on that, wasn't it?
Well, that's the documents. Did you walk all the way along it, taking all the story, and went, "Yeah, that's all right." Yeah,
yeah, and then just forgot about it.
Yeah.
It didn't spring to my mind, but yes,
not today. I always think 1066, one of those things you just is that not something that.
I tell you what was more interesting to me was that when I went to Hastings, to the theatre in Hastings, that they then said they kept telling us the capacity was 1,066.
There you go.
I never quite believed it, but that's apparently true. The theatre in Hastings has 1,066 seats.
But do they actively promote that, or do they just every night as they lock up they go, "Yeah, we know this"?
Well, no, they don't. And so I'm like, is it is it really? And I think that it was a bit of a sort of urban legend. It wasn't necessary. It was at one point, but I don't think it has now. But that did impress me for a second.
And yet you didn't seem to recall the date then when I said it, so you hadn't.
Well, no, I know I'm aware of it, but I was trying to think of something real sort of something historic that really came to mind, and there was nothing particular that I can remember. The trouble is, if I'm totally honest, I had a shit history teacher, not English teacher.
Your history teacher was so bad they were teaching you the wrong subject. They were teaching you English for about 4 years.
No, which is really harsh because that's too harsh because he wasn't awful, but he wasn't inspiring. That's all I can say.
Which is half the problem.
And annoyingly so, because I really like history nowadays, and I think if he had been, I would remember more about history, and I probably would have done history for GCSE, which I didn't. I did geography. I mean,
What's the point?
I don't know, but
although when you say you really enjoy history nowadays, do you mean you? So are you actually saying you enjoy history that's now? Are you saying you just like?
I enjoy the now.
Yeah, the best bit of history is the now bit, which in many ways is true.
I think I enjoy reading about historical things. Obviously nowadays, particularly local history. But I'm much more into learning about historical things now than then.
And it's the thing we said about in the interview as well. It's about having inspiring teachers, because I would agree. For me, there were things that I was interested in, but or maybe the way it's presented at school, our history teachers weren't great or whatever. But it's only afterwards when you actually start going to places and go, I want to know about this, that you realise. So I'd struggle as well. But for some reason 1066 is the one that I always remember.
But it's weird because I think is that a bit harsh to blame the teacher on the fact that I didn't enjoy the subject? But then I think that is the case. And like we were saying in the interview, I think times were changing even when we were at school, in that there were teachers who were all out for what they wanted to get out of it and weren't really interested in the kids, and then there were teachers that were hugely inspiring and really sold you the subject they were teaching. And I think now, well, only in what my experience of my oldest experience of sort of teaching is that with Max, every teacher he has had has been really inspiring and really engaging. And
I think that's also something to be said about like infant and junior school teaching, because it's the more fun bit, isn't it? And also kids' brains are more wanting to take it. They're not sullen teenagers yet. They're not like not wanting to know stuff. But I think like you and I think because both of us went to, I mean, you went to a boys' school. Mine was formerly a boys' school. And at the point we were at it, it was probably just, for me, certainly with my school, it just become a mixed school. But you still had some of those teachers from many, many years ago. Oh, yeah. And the transition. But yeah, so I think that's part of the reason. Secondary school, it's not very inspiring, is it really?
It wasn't, no, it doesn't. No. It makes me nervous about when Max gets to the point where he goes to secondary school, because I just remember it being, not particularly inspiring. There were sort of the odd moments that inspired me, particularly obviously drama and stuff, but there generally it wasn't particularly an inspiring place. But having said that as well, I think it's interesting because I look at the education he gets now and look at the teachers, and I think I know the level of what they're teaching is simpler than perhaps if you're teaching GCSE A-level maths, for example, but they're teaching all the subjects. They're teaching everything. Yeah.
It's a bit like being a GP, isn't it? If you're a GP,
to the youngest kids who know nothing. So they're not even kids who know something. They're at the point where they start, where everything is the first time. So they're really learning everything for the first time, and then and teaching everything. Yeah. So I think that's incredible, and to then be able to do that and still be inspiring. Yeah. And still, to get kids to kind of engage with all those, that's.
So they look at like their timetable and go from 9 till 1. I'm teaching everything. Yeah. And then have a lunch break. Yeah. And do everything until the end of the day.
How do you I don't know how you. I so much respect. So much respect for teachers, and I think that's it. I've me and I'm sure every parent's learned that in the last few months, when you start to sit down with your child and you go, well, what are we doing now? English. Okay, we're doing now maths. There's so many things, and you just
but it is like being a GP, because if you think when you go into a GP, you don't generally, if you just booked an appointment, you haven't said this is going to be about my penis. So you can walk in and say, I've got a problem with anything, and they have to go, no, that's right, finger up the bum, or whatever it is. Yeah. But you could say anything. I'd like to try and steer them the wrong way. My finger's been really sore for the last sort of few weeks, but there's this massive like prolapsed anus or something that I actually want to talk about. But it's weird, isn't it? You don't think like that. You're not like, you get specialities, obviously like surgery, but they're just like, could say anything to me, really.
But it's the equivalent. It's like hospitals are the equivalent of secondary schools, and a GP is the equivalent of a primary school teacher. A GP
and I think you should go in to a GP and you should say that to them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've worked this out. Like that. But I know you.
That's but when you get to secondary school, they specialise. So that's fair enough. You've learnt that subject, but I'm not belittling someone who is very good at maths or very good at one thing, but they are just doing one thing.
Well, in a way, it's easier to specialise, isn't it, than to have to be. I don't really know how we got here.
I don't know. We talked a lot about teaching, and we talked a lot about teaching in the interview, but we talked a lot about everything, because she's done loads of things and quite a variety, and there's so many things I wanted to ask her about growing up in America, about American life, really, because we said before we started recording, but like I struggle to pick, because it's not the country we grew up in, so to picture
it's not Bulldog,
50s, 60s America, it's not Bulldog. I mean, 50s, 60s America is definitely not Bulldog. At any point, even in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't.
Bulldog is just a big Tesco's, basically. That's all it's got. They're like the world's biggest Tesco's. But it's not the same as growing up in or being in San Francisco or whatever it might be.
No,
is it?
But it's really interesting. So there's so many things. You're trying to form. Any pictures I can form in my head are like films, and then then it comes down
all
to
you've got
what
is
films
Grease.
do I have?
And,
Grease, literally Grease.
Back to the Future. That's your only point of reference. You're just trying to stick them in there. And in Greece, it's like the 50s, but it's really the 70s, so it's not really very authentic.
As is Back to the Future. Back to the Future is the 50s, but it's the 80s. Or it's 2015 in Back to the Future 2, but it's still the 80s.
Well, it's like
still got faxes.
Going back to history, the only history I'm confident about is because of Blackadder. That's the only reason, That's, I know medieval, Elizabethan, Regency, the trenches. That's it. That's all my history. Sorry. And then I know the bit about when we went in a future in a time machine, saw a dinosaur. But again, I think that's just the Blackadder back and forth from the millennium. But speaking of millennium, speaking about time passing, the other day when I was going through stuff in the house I'm moving into, my dad's old house, I found a card from you wishing me a happy new millennium. So that was obviously...
Wow. Did I know you then?
It was Happy Christmas and Happy New... Of course you fucking did. It was...
That's insane. But that was quite early on in our relationship, wasn't it, though, to be fair?
We hadn't consummated yet. Yeah.
No, we hadn't. That was very early on, because that would have been...
Yeah.
For me, if that was 2000, that would have been before drama school.
Yeah, because I was 99 was when I started, so it would have been...
I started in 2000.
But then saying that, it was only a few months before, if you think about it, because I would have started in October 99. That would have been Christmas. And then you would have started the following October, so only about 8. And also we knew of each other through working at theatre for a while, and also college. But yeah, you wish me a happy millennium. And now
that's very nice.
Now we're 20 years in. I like to say, Glyn, it's not happy yet. When does the happy bit start? You promised me a happy millennium. Where the fuck is it?
Hey, at that point, what did I know? I was carrying musical theatre bags around and bleach blonde hair. I knew nothing about life.
No, my first sighting Glyn, as you just said, was in the Anchor pub in Hitchin with blonde highlights, carrying a Miss Saigon bag, and looking sort of not approachable is probably the best way to say it. You look quite stern, which is quite impressive to do when you've got blonde highlights, really.
Oh, I know, exactly. That's what I mean, yeah.
And holding a Miss Saigon bag. What was I afraid of? You might, I don't know, jump into some musical theatre routine. You weren't really going to fight me to the ground unless you were just very into the sort of Vietnam aspect and not the musical.
That side of them.
Yeah, I like Vietnam so much. I've got the bag.
Excellent. I'd like to see that. Send me a picture of me of my writing from myself. I will do. I'm quite intrigued to see that.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Things that those sort of, and obviously if you hadn't written that could have been any time, because your handwriting, like mine, is atrocious. But
like a spider who crawled across the page is what someone told me.
As one of her favourite teachers once said. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you hadn't written that word, just probably on a whim when you're writing that card, you wouldn't know that like 21 years later,
no,
which is what it is.
Yeah.
Or 20 years, I would go, oh, that's nice. It's been there all that time, filed away in my dad's house.
That's crazy.
And if you hadn't written Millennium, I would have just gone, oh, it's a card from Glyn, isn't it? Just not known.
But that's quite a unique... I don't even know if I've got things from that point in time. Maybe they are somewhere. I'm impressed by that.
I also had a thing where I pulled out one of the drawers, because it's an old chest of drawers that used to be in my bedroom when I was a kid and also a teenager. Some passport photos, and one of them was a picture of me with basically the same hair I've got now. It's like, oh, okay, nothing's changed really, has it? I've gone through like 3 stages that rotate, but it's funny you look at it and go, okay, remove the beard, yeah, it's basically the same, which I suppose is heartening when you're nearly 40. But
yeah, you've got a full head of hair, which is impressive,
Yeah, that's what you think. You haven't seen me actually for quite some time.
True, I've only seen it from the front. I don't know what's going on behind.
I've got like a sort of, like you get the fake backdrops you have on Zoom or Skype. I've got one with a hairstyle, and I just sort of position myself in it. It's bald as a coot, I think is the phrase. So next time you send me a card, can you put something that's age specific? So I go, that was 2020. Yeah, happy pandemic, recovery. And I go, it's the which pandemic?
Yeah, exactly.
Would it be the first one? But yeah, it's funny. Yeah. So yeah, I'll show you that.
Brilliant. I think we're still doing a podcast, so
no, we're not.
I suppose we should.
That a long time ago, we ended that. But yeah, thanks for listening again to our ramblings, and for hopefully listening to all the other episodes that we've got that are available in the same place you heard this, most likely.
Yes, that well, indeed. Yeah, and keep listening. We've got more coming, and more, and hopefully some live stuff. And more going, and some live shows coming back, where hopefully we do more podcasts, but on stage in the hopefully not too distant future.
Yeah, and I really hope we do that, because obviously that was the intention for this year as we reached the end of 2020. We entered it going, we'll do something new. We'll do the live podcast on stage. So the first half of the gig will be the gig, and the second half we'll interview the acts. And it was something we went, oh, that'd be exciting. That's a thing that we can explore. And then we did one, and then we obviously done all of this. But yeah, I do genuinely hope that we can go back and do that now, having done this sort of 12 or so interviews like this, feeling more relaxed and, and doing it in front of an audience, because it's interesting. These things are often more interesting and in many ways more entertaining than the actual gigs when it comes down to it. So, hopefully we'll do more, but who knows? Who knows? We've got to have injections and keep the social distancing going, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be an anti-vaxxer. That's bullshit. That's my advice. To just fucking get the injection, you wusses. Because, the amount of food you eat, and you don't go, oh, but maybe it's got something, just trust the fucking scientists.
It is true.
God's
sake. True. And if your stance is anything but what David just mentioned, then, we don't care.
We don't care. Just turn off.
We don't want you.
I mean, we're not getting any money from you anyway.
It's true.
And you're if you don't have the injection, you'll probably die. So what can we do? But on that bleak point, and genuinely, if you are listening, you're anti-vaxxers, just stop. I don't care. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's based on no evidence. It's based on the fact you saw it on Facebook. Oh, someone's brother said that how about we listen to the fucking scientists? And how about we also...
Just a small disclaimer, though, that if people are listening to this in a year's time and there's been multiple side effects and we're all dead, then we don't 100% back that.
But then also keep taking all the various medications that we all take, and we still live our lives. I think it's more important that we protect people than, it's like, but nothing like fucking people who know nothing about anything to be like me talking now saying you should have it. I hate people like me. But yeah, anyway, thank you for listening to this. Thank you for keeping supporting this podcast. If you liked it, tell us. There's one thing we don't get very often is any likes or, when people listen to it and they go, either they thought it was fucking terrible or they just don't, let us know what you think. We'd love to know.
Tell us. I mean, if you've got this far into this particular podcast, which is actually quite long already, and you've listened to it, please tell us what you think of it, because it would be amazing to hear. And to the fact that you've heard us ask this question, if you can reference that you heard us ask this question and you're now replying to it by letting us know, that would be
You almost
really
need to plant an Easter egg, don't you, the things, so that they would only know if they'd listened to this point. Can't think of anything.
Use the code word.
I once put a note in a bottle and threw it into the sea in I think it was Walton on the Naze. So let me know about that bottle that I put, with the message that I threw into the sea. If you know about that, you've listened this far, and I'm impressed.
And if you can reply to that note and you know what that note said, then even more impressive.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Imagine that. But not only did they find the note, they happened to listen to this podcast and went,
I know exactly.
Oh, is that David?
Exactly. Exactly.
That would be amazing. Or fake one. Find my handwriting online. Go all out to just fake it.
Remember, think of spider crawling across a page and then you get it about right.
Write it with the wrong hand. It would probably be about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. And we do rabbit on. But keep joining, listening to this stuff. Go and support, go and see Lynn Ruth Miller. And we'll hopefully see you another one of these or hear you, have you hearing us soon. Don't talk about how we rabbit on about nothing, because we know that. Give us something new. Give us something new to be paranoid about. Not the ones we expect. Goodbye. And if you've learnt nothing else, Hitler was Chancellor of Germany, 33. The Battle of Hastings, 1066. Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.